You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was a troublemaker from the jump. Well, no. Let me retract that. I had a propensity to being attracted towards troublemakers.
Okay. All
You
right.
know, like there was an allure of like, the bikers in New York,
Mm-hmm.
more rough and tumble kind of dudes that I would just look and go, I don't know, I got to go hang with them. Something about playing, give me 3 steps to the bar with a bunch of Hell's Angels floating around just seemed like the thing to do,
Dystopia tonight. Dystopia tonight.
What's up?
Yeah.
What's up, y'all? How you doing tonight?
How you doing, man?
Not bad. Thanks. You guys good?
Yeah, we're great.
Doing great,
everybody
man.
healthy? Everybody safe? You okay?
Absolutely.
So far, so good.
All right, good. Well, it was a crazy holiday season, but it's good to see you both again. I had a great time with y'all last time, so here we are.
I just realized you have the long hair. I'm trying to catch up to you. I think I could keep going, right? I got a long ways to go.
You look good, though. You right what you got is working for you. You're right.
It's like, stop. Do not do anymore. Oh, man. Yeah, dude, we had such a blast the last time you were on. And you guys, I want to thank you because you gave us such a great interview. You both had killer stories and you brought the energy and shit like that. And then we wound up in Us Weekly for our 100th episode. You guys were our 100th.
Oh, that's great, man. Well, thank you. Listen, I had a great time with you all last time. So, we'll do the same thing again tonight.
Thank you, man. So how was the end of your tour? You got, you obviously avoided any kind of Omicron shit. It was like on the cusp of that.
Well, we got a bunch of people who got sick.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, just tapping us on the shoulder the whole last couple of weeks of the tour.
Mm-hmm.
We started out in Omaha, Nebraska. So this is just before Omicron kind of like landed, if you will.
Right.
So we went from Omaha up to Sioux Falls. We got into Denver, and there was still the Delta variant was still kind of kicking around there. So,
sure.
A couple crew guys got sick, but, we had some replacements come out, By the time we got back down to Texas, we thought we were in the clear. And then this Omicron thing was just wreaking havoc. I mean, so much more transmissible, so much more contagious, I guess. Much less in the severity department, which thank goodness for that. Forget about working, forget about that. Just like, so much less severe for so many people who are susceptible to, like any kind of respiratory illness. But everybody was getting it. So, we made it to the end of the tour. A couple people went down, it was a nail biter for a couple minutes, but, we finished. I think we did 98 shows.
Wow.
And somebody had just sent me a billboard where it was like the #1 tour of 2021. So,
wow.
Hats off to the O'Neill
Congrats,
family.
man.
Hats off to our crew, our managers, Paul's wife, his daughter. Everybody did everything they could to keep us safe and protected.
Wow.
We had a COVID compliance officer out with us.
Oh, wow.
It was a lot, dude. It was a lot. But what was paramount is just doing the shows, and the people wanted to come and celebrate their holidays with us again in an arena.
Wow.
Like the prior year, like I think we mentioned last time we talked, we did the live stream and we sold, like over 250,000, something like that of those. So I knew that the people were chomping at the bit to get back to their tradition, and they came out in droves. It was just so awesome to stand out there and do this again. And, amidst all this chaos that was going on, but we finished New Year's Eve, everybody flew home, got with their families, did what they had to do, and exhaled like loudly,
Right.
mission accomplished. So
Nice.
there you have it.
Yeah, man. This is one of those moments where I wish I was a musician and not a comedian, because comedians don't have COVID compliant officers. We have overweight dudes at the back in the club calling me a pussy for wearing a mask. You know what I mean? Like that's
which is
that's
a COVID compliance officer in some places. Listen, the fact that I know what a COVID compliance officer is, that job didn't exist a couple of years ago.
That's true.
Yeah. So the secret was, listen, you call me what you want. I was wearing double masks all day long.
Oh, yeah.
I'd wake up in the morning and I would take a rapid test. I'd wear a mask all day. I'd pop it off when we do the show, put it back on when we left the show. We weren't allowed to hang out with anybody. There was no, hanging out with people on other buses. There was no going down to the hotel bar. It was straight up, if this thing gets shut down, that's a bad thing. So everybody believe in the mask. Don't believe in the mask. Doesn't matter what your side of the fence is. I chose to do everything I could in my power not to get sick.
It's just the easiest thing to do. It's like you don't want to get sick. You don't want to get anybody else sick. It's super easy.
Yeah, it is, and I'm not going to politicize it. I'm not going to get involved with the politics behind it. I mean, there's such a divide, but between people anyway. What worked for me was staying to myself, wearing 2 masks all the time, testing in the morning, testing in the evening, and having a pair of McKellen 18-year-olds at the end of the night. Just like, I'm done. Okay, today's in the books. I'm going to bed, y'all.
Right. Yeah, man. And it's got to be even scarier for musicians to like that too. You guys have to take care of your voices and be like, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It's got to be nerve-wracking.
Well, it's nerve-wracking anyway. I mean, long before COVID, singers, really, they got to be careful. Excuse me, to sing an entire show, 5-6 nights a week in a traditional rock band is one thing. You're talking about, we got 2 shows a day, 5 days a week, they got to come out, they got to crush it. Listen, it is what it is. We've all gotten sick on stage. We're on tour. We've had the flu, food poisoning, whatever. You kind of eat it and do it, and you get through it. Problem with this is that if you got sick and you spread it to like everybody on the bus, this is a problem. Under the COVID name, the fear and all the apprehension that's associated with something like this. So, I've done tours where I had the flu. I've done tours where I broke my leg. Whatever, it's my headache. I'll deal with it. When you can get a lot of other people sick.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Say again.
No. I was gonna say, you told us about your leg getting broken the last time. That was like, yeah.
Yeah, listen, what happens to you, and that's what it is, But when you could take an entire bus down, and people are dying from this thing. I mean, I don't know what the numbers were, globally, but this wasn't no joke, this thing. So listen, I didn't want anybody to get sick. I didn't want anybody to go home, but everybody ponied up, did their jobs. I'm super proud of everyone involved, and I'm really proud of the folks in the audience who just came out and supported us, And here we are, man. We're talking about this in a positive, which 6 months ago it was like, I don't know.
I know exactly. Did you and Chris get to cross paths on the end?
No, man. He was running with the East Coast band. I know that that Omicron variant was chasing their tail because they were up in the 13 colonies where this thing was really sinking its teeth into,
Yeah.
So I was with him on the show with you guys. I think I spoke to him once after that, but everybody was just like head down, head for the border and go.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you. Wow. That's fucking crazy.
And then Liquid Music Group, Max is chiming in. She asked, how many people are on that crew?
On the crew?
Yeah, overall.
I'm going to say on the crew is probably 80 people, give or take.
Wow.
And then you got the 17 of us in the band, plus you got a 6-piece string section. So I think we had like 12 buses and 20 semis for each band, the East Coast bunch and the West Coast bunch, So it's a lot of moving parts, dude. And it's really difficult. Like you can pound your chest in rehearsal and have the big speech go team and everybody's going to stay out of the bars and the hotel lobbies and just be, you're talking about over 100 and something people that one of them has to get it. Going out, just maybe being a little relaxed with the mask. Well, listen, whatever you contribute to somebody getting sick to, whatever happens, one person gets it, you get on a bus, it's like a big petri dish.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So that was the scary part about it, but I'm so proud of everybody involved. I really am.
Nice. I didn't get to talk to you too much about like your beginnings and where you started and stuff like that. And I read something recently that you and your college roommate at the time wound up both going on tour with Alice Cooper. How the hell did that happen? That's insane.
No, well, it is, but it's not. So I got hired in September of 1989 to be Alice's musical director.
Right.
Wow.
Okay. From just a couple really good recommendations from some great people. One was Steve Vai and Greg Bissonette. Oh, wow. They were just great people, incredible artists, and were kind enough to kind of just drop my name in the right situation at the right time. Mm-hmm. When Steve Vai recommends you, most people don't question it. Right. And Greg Bissonette had done the same thing. So Alice's people called me up. I flew out to LA, started getting involved in what was to be an MD. They said, "Can you MD the band?" I'm like, "Absolutely." I had no idea what that meant. But like I learned a long time ago, just say, "Yeah, we're good. I can do that."
Yeah.
So what I found out is like putting the band together, working on the arrangements, being able to speak the language fluently. I was like, all right, I got you. But they said, we don't have a keyboard player. And I said, well, I went to college with this guy, Derek Sherinian, who's absolutely incredible. All right. And they're like, well, yeah, call him up and get him in. So Derek happened to live, I think he's living in Santa Cruz at the time. And I called him up. I said, listen, dude, I got this opportunity for you. Come down, play the piano. It's going to be a huge tour with Cooper. I said, but do not speak. Do not open your mouth. And he goes, and he got it because Derek likes to talk a lot. He's just like, dude, shut up. So I said, just come in, just play the piano, and I promise you, you'll get this job. But he came in and he crushed it. He's so awesome anyway. And he didn't talk for like 2 weeks. I was very proud of him.
Oh my God, that's incredible. What was the first thing you said to you after that?
Oh yeah, he looked at me one day and he goes, "Dude, that's Alice Cooper." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. Whatever.
Nice.
Just play the song and shush, you know."
Yeah.
But
You're
we,
like,
you know, it was all young and innocent and a lot of fun and being in LA for the first time. And
mhm.
listen, standing on stage with Alice Cooper, I mean, that's no joke, dude.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, to sit down and play Only Women Bleed or Dwight Fry or Welcome to My Nightmare, and this isn't a cover band. I mean, that's the dude right there.
right.
You know, and it was a great introduction into theatrical interpretations of music on an arena level.
Hmm.
You know, which little did I know, like, you know, I don't know, 7, 8 years later, you know, the beginnings of the Trans Siberian Orchestra was going to happen, and that was going to be the quintessential adaptation of theatrics in an arena. So it kind of, I learned a lot and how to do it and all that.
Do you remember what the hardest thing was you had to learn when you were first starting out as an MD?
I had to learn how to speak a couple different languages.
Wow.
Meaning, like, you know, on a musical level, like I could turn around to somebody like a Derek. Jonathan Mover was the original drummer in that touring band, and I could speak to them in the vernacular or in the musical vocabulary, if you will. Like I'd say, you know,
Sure.
Derek, I need like an F Lydian chord hero. You know, make that a major 9 on the whatever. Some of the other guys, I'd have to go, dude, the second fret. No, the other second fret. You know, so
Yeah.
But you know, but you can't get frustrated because, you know, Pete Friesen and T-Bone Caradonna, who were the respective other guitar player and the bass player, these guys were just great players. They just didn't come up through the traditional schooling, you know, of that, but it didn't take anything away from how awesome they were. And the band had a great vibe and a great chemistry, and it was just a lot of fun. So that was the most, not difficult, but that was the first lesson I had to learn. And then I also had to learn how to speak to Cooper. You know, in regards to like, okay, he's asking me to have the band do something. I need to translate what he's saying, explain it to them, and kind of give it back to them. So you think on the fly a lot, and you learn to really get good at cutting and pasting and coming up with ideas really, really quick.
Right. Was he like cool to hang out with and stuff like that? Did you get to spend much time?
Dude,
with
he
him
was
alone?
the greatest guy ever. Yeah, I mean, we toured. That tour lasted about 12 or 13 months.
Wow.
You know, he was, you know, a little bit older, so a little bit more relaxed. And this was my first big rodeo. So I was, you know, reading the Motley Crue tour book on how to get through life in a rock and roll band. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oops. But learned a lot from it. Was a great guy, good family man. I have nothing but love and respect for him. I mean, look at it. I mean, he's not doing it today because there's something wrong with him. I mean, he's been awesome from the jump, and he's continued to get to be awesome. And you know, I know a couple of people in his current band, and you know, just I wish them all well and get out there and just keep going.
When you were in college and you and your roommate were together, what was your was your goal to play in a band? Were you super excited for that kind of stuff? Like, how did you feel your music trajectory was going to go at that point?
Didn't have a clue, brother. You know,
Really?
And in regards to that, I was kind of preparing for anything that could have come my way. You know, did I want to be a session player? Okay. Did I want to be in a band? Okay. I didn't care. I just knew that I wanted to do this with the guitar in my lap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wanted it more than the air in my lungs. You know, I just knew that I would do anything. I just wanted to be a guitar player. I wanted to do something that really is almost impossible to do. You know, and just trying to get better every day, trying not to be an asshole, trying to do the best thing I could possibly do, trying to, you know, cut my teeth in the streets of New York City, you know, meeting people, trying to play well all the time, you know, not letting life interfere with, you know, this trajectory I'm trying to stay focused on. So, you know, it didn't really matter. I just knew I wanted to be a guitar player. I should say I wanted to be a musician. You know, I was playing a lot of guitar, obviously, and playing a lot of piano. And I started learning how to program drums on the computer when that whole thing first came out in the early 80s. I just wanted to be an all-around, you know, well-versed, well-educated guy who could do whatever it takes at whatever time, because I never knew where my opportunity was going to come from.
Right. Were your parents the type of people that were cool with you, like doing that kind of stuff, or did they have a different idea of what you were going to do in college?
Oh, hell no. This was the bane of their existence since I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan in 1964. My mother had her rosary beads out. My father tried to beat the guitar out of me. Like, this was not a good time for any of us, you know? No. Well, you got to think about it, though, dude. It's like, you know, early 70s by the time I kind of was like really kind of in this. You know, playing in like local bands and garage bands and, you know, the school dances, whatever the crap you do. And, you know, my old man was my high school principal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, not a fun 3 years.
That's not fun. Yeah,
no, nothing.
You can't get away with shit.
But you got to listen. You got to hand it to him in the time, in the mindset where he came from, his generation. This was the most terrifying thing you could have told him. Right. Like, I want to be a musician. He's like, no, you know, you're going to school and you're going to get, you go to college, you're going to get a degree and a proper job with security and safety and all that. And listen, can't say anything bad about that because at the time that made all the sense in the world.
Sure.
He didn't know that within his lifetime, that whole safe middle class, go to school, get a job, marry Carol Brady, have a couple kids in a picket fence, and and pay your more. That somebody put a bullet in the head of that concept a long time ago.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it wasn't a pleasant journey, but I understood. Certainly, turning 60 years old this year, I certainly understand. Having kids and worrying about everything every day.
Oh, yeah.
You want the best for them. You want them not to make foolish choices. Did I make a foolish choice? Probably, but it worked out in my favor.
Yeah. Were you the only one in your family that had that kind of like musical talent or anything like that? Anybody else go into show business in your family ever?
Nah, dude, they couldn't play a radio in my house. Straight up hand on my heart. I mean, I love my baby sister with all my heart. She tried playing violin. When they handed out instruments in elementary school, I was like, that sounds nothing like the Charlie Daniels Band. Put it down. My mom would sing and my father would attempt to sing, but no. Nobody was real musical. I honestly, God, have no idea. I just fell in love with the Beatles, fell in love with the whole culture. Was listening to music and just, I don't know. I can't explain to you why. I just know that it didn't let go of me. This is 58 years ago, almost 58 years ago now.
Right. Wow. I'm going to ask you, what do you think about, because like every musician that we've had on, man, it's so crazy that like everybody knows how crazy awesome the Beatles are, right? How the longevity has lasted, how the, mythos is, like everybody talks about it. But like, there is not one person who's in music who's not influenced by the Beatles, who didn't get blown away by Ed Sullivan. What do you think is the core? Do you think it's the group mentality that they had, that they all kind of stuck together, played together, grew together, that kind of a thing, or do you think it's the music? What do you think it makes them like impact all these young musicians?
I think everything that you just said. I think that them as a band, nobody had ever seen anything like that before when they hit the TV. Nobody had heard music like that before. I mean, they didn't just change music; they changed pop culture.
Yeah,
if you think about like they were only together, I think 4 or 5 years.
Right.
As the Beatles. And then obviously they all went on to have incredible solo careers. But when you think about when there were a bunch of kids from Liverpool playing I Want to Hold Your Hand, and by the time they finished that with George Martin, the complexity of the songwriting and the production and the depth of it, it was just an incredible thing to watch. I mean, I wasn't aware of what was going on. I was a little kid. Right. But I just knew that like I could not get enough of their music. I watched an interview. I don't know if we chatted about it last time. I don't know if I'd seen this before we spoke last or after, but there's an interview out or a documentary called McCartney 321, where he's being interviewed by
Rick Rubin.
Thank you. Excuse me. Yeah. And Rick Rubin looks at him and he goes, "Why are your songs so memorable?" And McCartney deadpan looks him in the face and goes, "Well, I had to remember him."
That's right. That's so genius.
So I think that they're going to analyze McCartney and Lennon's music and Harrison and Ringo, for all time. What it was about, I don't know. It was maybe there was an innocence to it, a vulnerability to it, but everybody my age and obviously older, any musicians, and even some a little bit younger than me, was so struck and moved by them that like I remember doing an interview, I forget with whom, a couple of years ago. I was with Dennis Miller on his simulcast he was doing, and he asked me the same question. I said the Beatles. He goes, "Do you know how many people I've interviewed say the same exact thing?"
Yeah.
He goes, "Do you remember that moment?" I said, "I was 2 years old. My mom was clever enough to take like a Polaroid picture of me in my Feedy pajamas with my granddaddy's acoustic guitar in front of the TV. So I don't really remember it, but I could just tell you this is the outcome of 58 years ago. So it meant everything to me and still does. And the man just keeps getting better. He's, watching McCartney go out on tour yet again. He's got to be approaching almost 80 years old. He looks amazing. He sounds amazing. He's a gentleman. Like it's just like that's the pinnacle of what you should try to achieve in this business.
It's crazy. We had Jay Clemens on the show, and we were talking about McCartney and seeing McCartney, and like I get tired watching that guy. Like I know he's 70 something years old, and I've gone to see him a bunch of times because like. When he was touring, my mom and I would go for her birthday because she loves, same thing, loves the Beatles, got me into music and stuff. But he's everywhere. He's bouncing around. He seems like he's not aged a fucking day, and it's fun. But the same thing, man. Like, so like when you're on stage, like, is it just the energy that the audience gives you when you're on stage that you're just immediately picked up? Is it just the joy of playing music? What the fuck keeps you guys?
Listen, I can't speak for anybody, and I certainly won't speak for Sir McCartney. But I can tell you for myself that I've dreamt of this my entire life.
Right.
Okay. when I was a kid growing up on Long Island, I'd go to Nassau Coliseum, try to, scalp tickets, sneak into the arena, wash down truck tires, maybe the roadies a little bit. I just wanted to get it. I mean, I got off on watching the road cases be loaded into the docks, lighting trusses, like guitar amps. I mean, I'd be drawing like, Marshall heads on the back of my geometry notebook instead of doing homework, dude.
Right.
I was in love with it from the get-go, everything about it. Then, excuse me, putting a guitar around your neck and making music with other musicians, maybe having success, maybe not, but there's just some sort of fun chemistry that goes in with just jamming and making music with other people,
Yeah.
But to this day, my manager and I, anytime we walk into the arena over in Omaha, Nebraska, when we start doing our rehearsals, and we'll look at each other, it's like, you ready? It's like, yeah, absolutely. Because we both grew up. I grew up in Hicksville. He grew up in Levittown. We're about the same age.
Oh, nice.
We walk in and see nothing but road cases and stuff on the floor. And we kind of fist bump. It's like, yes, this is awesome. You immediately turn back into a 15-year-old,
Yeah.
I mean, I get off on it on a different level. People look at me like, what are you smiling about? I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. You don't understand.
Right.
Maybe, you didn't try to sneak backstage as a kid. Maybe you didn't. You didn't get chased out of the arenas by the cops or security, get beat up, whatever. But for me, to walk into an arena and not get thrown out of it is just a great accomplishment.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's so fucking cool, dude.
And then it's just fun, dude. That's all. If you keep it fun and innocent, that's what it should remain.
Right.
And the fact that then you put 17, 18,000 people in there, I'm already on 10 before the show because I love the fact that I'm grateful to be doing this for this many years at my age.
Yeah.
But you put a bunch of people in the audience and their eyes light up and they got their fists in the air and there's little kids on grandpa's lap, man. I can't explain how much fun that is to watch and be part of and just be proud of.
Yeah. Do you remember your first concert as a kid?
My first concert was The Temptations, 1968 at the Westbury Music Fair.
Did you sneak in?
No. Actually, I got in legit that night. My aunt and my uncle were. My aunt was my mom's baby sister, so she was kind of like caught the tail end of the 50s into the early 60s era. My uncle was a greaser. He had a leather jacket, like a Pontiac Le Mans. He was just the coolest thing ever,
Right.
And Motown was like all over the place back then. And I just, again, once I got into Motown as well, they got tickets for the Temptations at Westbury Music Fair.
Oh wow! Holy shit!
And it was fun, dude. I remember, seeing Eddie Kendricks run down the aisle and start singing and dancing and looking all awesome. I was like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Did you ever get when you met somebody like an idol of yours or something like that? Did you ever get intimidated by it, or were you one of those people that went right up to them and were just like, no? Oh wow!
No, dude. I am so intimidated and terrified, and because I got to meet Greg Allman a while ago.
Oh,
and my wife and she got me tickets because, my monitor guy worked for the Allmans and, he was saying how, Greg's health is failing. So anyway, we went to meet him. And I walked in and I looked at him and I just said, there's 1,000 things I've been dying to say to you for the last 40 years. I can't remember one of them, and his assistant guy goes, yeah, it happens. I get a little tongue tied because these are my heroes,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, yo, bro, what's up?
I know.
Out of respect. And I just I don't know, man. I just, those are Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, Gladys Knight, Greg Allman, a couple others that I just kind of go, I can't talk.
I know. It's crazy. I'm so in between going, you know what? Fuck it. I shouldn't meet them at all. I'm just going to keep them the way I have in my head at a distance, whatever. Yeah. And then there's a part of me that's also like, you know what? Just go and whatever happens, fucking happens. Mm-hmm. And I've said some dumb shit. I think I may have told you this the last time, but I met, I was doing stand up in Burbank, California at this comedy club and Dave Grohl was in the audience. And I went up to, he was just coming to see a friend. I don't know what it was, but he was very complimentary. He's a very cool dude. And like an idiot, the first things out of my mouth was, my mom really loves your music. And he just went, your mom, huh? Mm-hmm. And I was like, what the fuck? But she did, she does. But I was like, what in the holy fuck would make you think
that that's going to go over well?
And then I swear to God, I was like, I don't know what happened to me. And he was like, yeah, let's just take a photo. I was like, probably for the best. Yeah.
Hey, listen, you get nervous, you get tongue tied, but the flip side to that is I always am fearful that I meet somebody that I've idolized my whole life who turns out to be a dick.
Oh yeah, totally. That's always 10 times.
You know, so it's always, maybe that's why I get a little squirrely. I don't know, man. I don't want the
Yeah.
whole dream. You know, I got to work with Paul Rogers many, many times
wow.
over the years. He came and sang with TSO a bunch of times. And needless to say, you know, like the first couple Bad Company records were like the soundtrack to my whole, you know, teenage years, you know.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, please be nice. Please be nice. This is Paul Rogers. And he was what a gentleman, what a great guy. We correspond all the time. You know, that was one of the ones that I went, man, all right, nailed it. He's a good boy, you know. And needless to say, one of the greatest rock and roll singers of all time.
It's so weird too. Like you're talking about corresponding and stuff like that. Like I get the same way with like I make a connection. You know, we hit it off. I don't know somebody that well or whatever. And then when they do the thing where they're like, "Hey man, keep in touch," my brain goes, "They lied." You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're being polite, maybe.
Yeah,
but listen,
like, fuck.
all you can do is drop an email or text and say, "Hey, hope all's well. You guys healthy and safe, whatever." You know, respect. And then if they answer back, answer back. You know, I'm not going to put too much weight into anything, man. You know, as we all learned from this pandemic, the rules are all out the window.
Absolutely.
You know? So right now it's kind of like, you know, get through, do the best you can, you know, and just keep a positive attitude and look forward to tomorrow.
Yeah. Somebody made a good point too. They just said it's like an old memory from your childhood. Much better to keep the memory instead of destroying it. That's
straight up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so crazy too. Like, so you were talking about sneaking into stuff when you were younger and getting in any kind of trouble. Is that part of the rock and roll kind of credo though too? Like, do you feel like it was just in you from the get-go? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was a troublemaker from the jump. Well, no. Let me retract that. I had a propensity to being attracted towards troublemakers.
Okay.
You know, like there was an allure of like, you know, the bikers in New York, you know, like, you know, the more rough and tumble kind of dudes that I would just look and go, I don't know, I got to go hang with them. You know, something about playing, you know, Give Me 3 Steps to the Bar with a bunch of Hell's Angels floating around just seemed like the thing to do, you know?
Holy shit.
Yeah, well, and you know, a lot of great friends over the years. You know, just listen. I don't what you do for a living, what circles you run. I don't care. You're either a good human being or a bad human being. You know,
right.
I'm not going to like judge you on what colors you're wearing or what. Listen, it is what it is. You know, I know a lot of Wall Street types. Who, you know,
Yeah.
You know,
you're not judging me from wearing a Garfield shirt and a jacket from 1986. You know what I mean?
Well, actually, I am, but I'm being very polite about it.
That's fair. That was fair. I deserve it.
No, I'm just teasing you. Listen, it wasn't a matter of I didn't have the chance to get in too much trouble back then because I legit was home practicing as much as I could. Yeah. But, you know, I was 15 years old playing in bars around Long Island. Remember, this is 1977, 78. There was no photo ID and the drinking age was 18. You know, so I had literally a paper driver's license from some dude named, I think his name was Mark Thomas, no photo on it. You know, if I was 15, 18, wasn't that far away. So, you know, the age, nobody looked at me like, you're a young kid. You know, so you're getting in bars and you play until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, bad stuff happened, but, you know.
Right. Yeah.
It's all part of the learning and the life experience of doing that, man. I tell everybody, unless you grew up in the 70s and got to play in the bar circuit in the tri-state area, man, you kind of really missed out on something amazing.
Yeah, I feel like that was a one-time. Every time I love watching music documentaries, you know, about the 70s and like everybody, all the bands and stuff, and everybody that was around then. And it feels like that was just one moment in time, never gonna happen again. You know, just all that shit was brand spanking new.
Brand new.
Yeah,
brand new.
And that was it. And now it's like, you know, because it's funny because it's one of those things. Do you know? Oh my God, I can't think of her name. It'll come to me in a second. This happens every fucking show. There's somebody. Anyway, they were talking about, she was like, you know what's crazy is that nobody runs up to me. And when I was a kid, nobody ran up to any adult and was like, oh my God, what was it like in the 30s? And she goes, but everybody runs up to me and asks what it was like in the 70s. What was it like touring? And it is true. Like nobody gives, you know, it's that one moment in time everybody wants to get back to.
You know, it's interesting because, you know, the 30s has like a stigma attached to it that nobody really wants to remember because it was the Great Depression and things going upside down. You know, then it was, you know, World War II, you know, in the 40s. And then you had, you know, like the 50s, which was like the innocence and the whole, you know, birth of suburbia. You know, the 60s has a stigma attached to it with, you know, the flower, you know, the peace, love, and flower stuff. Vietnam, you know, a lot going to social rights, you know, all that stuff, man. The 70s, it was kind of like the birth of FM radio.
Right.
The birth of all those bands. I mean, at any moment you had the Allman Brothers and Leonard Skinner, you had ELP, Yes, King Crimson. The 70s were special because there was it was innocent musically.
Yeah.
There was a lot going on politically. You had the gas crisis, Jimmy Carter as president in 76, a lot going on that way with the economy. But from a musical standpoint, it's albums were being put out. Pink Floyd came out with Dark Side of the Moon, Elton John's Yellow Brick Road, Jethro Tull, Aqualung, Led Zeppelin hit it. It was like, dude, this is awesome.
Yeah. And somehow you guys had bell bottoms and you were still fucking a lot. You know what I mean? So that was like a real contrast. That was a struggle for me to see. But then you led right into the 80s. You know what I mean? And that had its own fucking cool identity with MTV and all that other shit too. It's like those 2 decades, man, are just
those insane. 2 decades were real powerful musically. I mean, I remember it must have been, I'm going to say 1982, I think is when MTV kind of first started. And everybody had the same reaction. I accidentally hit this channel on TV that was playing music and didn't stop.
Right.
So every band in the 70s that was just concentrating on being cool and playing live and all that now had another outlet that everybody in America could watch them. Remember, we only had Kerrang! Magazine, Circus Magazine.
Right.
So those are the only ways we could see, I could see Steven Tyler or Joe Perry or whomever, Frank Marino, whoever was popular at the time,
Yeah.
Or go see them live in concert. Now they're in your living room. Which made the music business brought it to a whole different level where it now became visual and these mini films are being played and it was an incredible time. It really was.
Did you find people did you embrace that kind of stuff when it was coming out? Did you, because I know there was a mixed bag of people thought too much exposure, bad for music. Nobody's coming out to see live stuff, but I thought it increased everything.
I thought it increased everything, dude. I mean, I was literally glued to that set,
Yeah.
I mean, I get home from school or from work, whatever I was doing at the time, and just click, that's it. I'd wait for the Kaja Gugu ones to go by so I could get to the rock stuff later on in the day.
Yeah.
But I think that arena rock, it was what put it through the roof because now, I mean, these guys were larger than life on your TV, getting into the songs, watching the videos, everything about it was just amazing.
Right. Did you have a lot of, you mentioned coming home from work and stuff like that. How many regular jobs did you have before you could go full tilt, be in a band, play music forever?
Oh, I don't know. A lot, being a busboy, working in a beer distributor, landscaping.
Right.
I don't know if I told you the story, but, you never really let go of that, your childhood upbringing and you learn how to swing a hammer, swing a spatula.
Sure.
But I remember when I got done with Cooper, I got fired from his band, I think in 90, early 91, something like that. And I kept doing pretty good. I was doing a lot of records with this producer up on Long Island. And I remember I had done 92, 93, I'd done a Celine Dion record. I played guitar on a couple tracks,
right.
Just before the Titanic movie, just before she exploded. So whatever.
Right.
But the record was doing really good. But all of a sudden the work dried up, and the phone wasn't really ringing it. I had a couple kids at the time living on Long Island. And I remember okay, my neighbor had a landscaping truck and I said, dude, you need any help? I need money now. So he says, oh man, jump in and go out and cut lawns, cut hedges. I didn't give a shit. You just do what you got to do. You got a family that you're responsible for. That's what comes first. Well, one day I'm in this backyard of this kind of really opulent little situation. It's I don't know, Northport or Centerport, somewhere on the kind of the rich side of town on Long Island. And I'm, cutting the lawn and trimming the hedges, doing whatever the hell I'm doing. And this 16-year-old little girl in a bikini comes out, kind of rolls her eyes at me like I'm Pedro the landscaper, rolls out of town. She's sunbathing. And in the background comes this song that I played guitar on. And that was one of those head down moments. I'm like, all right, well, not my finest moment. And I just kind of rolled my eyes like, fuck, So, you kind of, I don't know, man, how many jobs over the years? Plenty of them, because, you're always looking ahead going, what's next? And again, going back, I don't want to keep bringing up the pandemic, but every musician, every sound man, every LD, every laser shooter, everybody in the music business kind of went, oh shit.
Right.
2 years ago.
Totally.
So, listen, you plan for the best, you prepare for the worst, or you plan for the worst and prepare for the best, whatever. You never know. But I had a lot of jobs because they only lasted about a week because I just couldn't deal.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. That's the thing. I feel like that's a running joke between anybody that's in music or comedy where they're just none of the fucking jobs lasted. I couldn't do it. Couldn't make, not that they even couldn't do it, but it's it's just, you don't have the mindset for it. You're thinking about other shit and you're destined to do something, I guess I would say better, you know what I mean? Or something that's more true to you. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times, you become conversive with whomever you're working in, in a beer distributor,
right.
Model Sporting Goods, whatever the hell you're doing. And you got long hair in 1982. and we got an earrings. Like, dude's like, why you got long hair and earrings? I don't know. Why do you look like an asshole? What do you want me to tell you? Oh yeah, you think you're going to be a musician? Yeah, pipe dreams. Yeah, hold the case of beer in the back, and just everybody wants to bring you down. Everybody wants to kind of pull you back down to the. Not many people kind of say, dude, go for your dream. Did you ever see that TV commercial with the kid? He's a goth kid. He comes out of his bedroom. He's got like safety pins in his. He's like a 14-year-old kid. He's going out. He's got all the goth clothing on, like funky hair, and his mom goes, "Hey, come over here." You can't go out like that. And he walks over and she fixes the safety pin earring in his ear and gives him a kiss on the forehead and said, "Oh, go have a good night."
I've never seen that. That's great.
Yeah, my mom did not follow that protocol. You know what I mean? But it's a great commercial because just encourage, do what you got to do, man. A lot of people just want to shit on everything that you're doing. I got no time for it.
No, I know what you mean.
So that's it. And again, it was probably I'm an asshole because I'm like, I don't want to stack shelves. I don't want to be here. And the $3.25 an hour is really not changing my life. So I got to go.
Yep. No, I totally get it. Yeah. That's crazy too, because I like to give, I think it's, those generations credit, because when my friends and I when I was in school, we didn't really have that. You know what I mean? Like, everybody was really accepting of whatever anybody wanted to wear. We had when I was in high school, it was early 2000s. So it was all different styles. The 80s were coming back.
Yeah, it was different. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and nobody gave a shit. And it was, but I do credit those generations with kind of doing that kind of stuff, because you guys made it cool. And then everybody was dressed differently in a band. You could always tell the band just by simply what they were wearing, the length of their hair, what the color, whatever. And even TV and movies and shit like that, we're always be yourself, be who you want to be, fuck all that shit. And then it finally filtered into when I was growing up as a kid, because no one gave a fuck. Yeah. We were all everybody wore what they fucking wanted to. Everyone was gay, bi, whatever the fuck it was. And nobody cared.
Nobody cared. And, it's good, man, because let from generation to generation, just dispel all the crap from the previous generations. Yeah. It's not that important. Let's concentrate on you raising good human beings. Forget about socioeconomic background, race, creed, color, religious, ethnicities. Don't care. How about let's teach your generation not to be assholes.
Right. Oh my God, that would be a fucking miracle.
Well, listen, that's what we're working towards. Little by little.
Yeah.
I think people get so caught up in phobias and what's been stigmatized. I don't care.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I want my kids to grow up to be really just fine young adults and have great lives.
Are any of your kids interested in music, going into it?
My middle son is an incredible bass player, producer, piano player. He lives in Brooklyn. He's writing TV commercials. Wrote a bunch of great songs, toured a bunch. Yeah, he followed in Daddy's footsteps, but he's so much better than I ever was. I mean, at his age, the kid sounds like James Jameson meets Jocko. It's
holy shit.
Amazing. Yeah, he's for real.
Yeah.
Straight up for real. The other two boys, they're both in the armed forces.
Oh wow, dude, that's awesome.
And then my two daughters, they're 11 and 5, so they're being girls.
Yeah. They're just girls. That's it.
Which is so much more difficult than raising boys, I got to tell you.
Do you? I can only imagine, dude. Is it? Do you kind of want to collaborate your son? Do you kind of give him little points here and there? What's the?
When he asks me, if he asks me, I preface everything with, "Listen, this is my opinion. This is what worked out for me. I'm not going to guide him. I'm not. I taught him the dedication and the hours, the 10,000 hours it's going to take him to be good at something.
Oh, that's great.
But for me to give him advice about the music, I know nothing about the music business right now.
Right.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
so
it's weird,
he'll ask me, he goes, "Daddy, do you know anything about it?" I'm like, "Dude, I'd be making something up." So no, I wrong guy.
He's like, "I've heard of this thing called TikTok. Have you heard of it?" Yeah,
nope.
I know.
Yeah, it was what my clock used to do on my wall.
I remember when we talked last time. You were talking about you. So you're born in Brooklyn?
Well, yeah, I was about 7 minutes old when the family moved out to Long Island.
I was gonna say, yeah, because I didn't know what the timeline was, because I was born in Brooklyn as well, and I didn't know how much time you got to spend there.
None. It was the hospital to the Long Island Expressway. We're gone.
That should be the name of your autobiography: From the Hospital to the Long Island Expressway. Gone
and back.
and back. Yeah, and exactly. Back. Oh, what brought you out to Pennsylvania?
I was invited up here. I was living in New York City at the time. And I was invited to a 4th of July barbecue on some lake in the mountains of Pennsylvania. And I'm like,
nice.
Okay, well, all right, where's that? And I came up and I looked around. I was like, wow, this is a beautiful little place. And, little house on the lake for the weekend, cruising around town. It was like, what a cute little town. Really, I think it was settled in the middle 1700s. It's the town that time forgot.
Wow,
you know?
yeah. That's
And I
beautiful.
bought a place up on a lake up here just to have weekends, get out of the city hanging. And, not too long after 9/11, it was
Yeah.
like, you know what?
Yeah.
So just kind of came up here. The onset of the high-speed internet was just starting.
Mm-hmm.
TSO was starting to take, get its foothold. So there was no real reason to live in New York City anymore. I'm only about 70 miles away from it.
Right.
So I turned around one day. I was like, whatever. This will
Nice.
work.
That's cool, man. I think you're living my friends and I used to go, we still do. Every summer we go as a tradition to rent a house in the Poconos.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's on a lake.
It's gorgeous.
And I'm like, in my head, I swear to God, I'm ready. When can I get a house here? When can I move? And because my friends are like, you'd go crazy. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, man. I'm like, I'm in the city all the time as it is anyway. I've had my, fill. I would love to live in a small town on a lake with, Wi-Fi and a fucking bear or some shit. I don't know. But that seems like great.
All that's true. Listen, if that's all you have, it can get a little squirrely after a while, because I mean, you and I seem a lot alike in the, the fast-paced personality of the city, hit the streets, run and do stuff.
Right.
You can't do that up here. That's not what this is. This is a place to come to get away from the insanity,
Yes, that's great.
So, but up here, it's quiet. It's nice. There's this, just become friends with everybody in the community. No big deal. Everybody knows what I do. They're like, oh, cool, love your music, or whatever. Right. It's not a big deal. There's awesome. The barber in town. There's a little guitar shop in town. Mm-hmm. There's the boxing academy in town, and there's a grocery store. That's it. Nice. That's what you got.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's very simple. It's good for the girls because it's a small town. And I want them to be raised with those kind of ethics and the morality of small town and decorum.
Yeah,
and still have a little bit of a New York City edge to them as well.
Yeah, totally. And you get like close friends and stuff like that in a small town. When I was younger, we moved and I grew up in a small town. It was like a very small school, but I know those people. You know what I mean?
It's a different. It's completely different vibe.
Yeah. Would say the Long Island when you were growing up there and stuff like that, and just being from New York, did it influence your music in a way, like your writing style when you're playing music and stuff like that? Like, how would you say New York and that upbringing kind of seeped into your music?
Well, you got to keep in mind how many bands came from Long Island,
right?
In the tri-state area,
Right.
So you start with probably, like Carmine Appice and Vanilla Fudge going back. Okay, Leslie West and Mountain coming from Staten Island,
right?
Steely Dan, putting their first incarnation of their band together in Hicksville with Denny Diaz and a bunch of people. Blue Oyster Cult coming from Long Island, Twisted Sister, I know I'm spacing a bunch of others. There's so many incredible artists. Billy Joel, from again. So you're talking about people came from this little itty bitty piece of real estate and made it big. Mm-hmm. So two things occurred. One, it taught us that it can be done,
right?
And I paid very close attention to how they did it. So, taking apart Boys the Cult songs. Don't Fear the Reaper, Cities on Flame, Godzilla. It's these dudes who live probably about 10 miles away from where I grew up. There's a band called Ram Jam that did a cover of Black Betty. That was the first, So
it's a great fucking cover.
Here's a band from, not too far from where I live who did a cover to that. Is a good idea. And then you had Twisted, who was a bar band doing cover songs that started writing their own songs. And, they were, before they became Twisted on the Stay Hungry record, D was selling 1,000 seats in clubs on Long Island.
Wow.
You had bands like them, and Rat Race Choir. Zebra was another band that came up from New Orleans and kind of set their home up in the tri-state area and then got signed to Atlantic Records. You had a DJ named Bob Buckman on WBAB who had a thing called Homegrown, which he would play local songwriters or local bands' music. So it was in the 70s. It was, kind of the greatest of all things to be in a band, to be a guitar player. I can go to a club 4 nights a week and see 8 different bands that were incredible.
Right.
And this is on a club level. And then, if you had the balls to take the train into New York City and do it there, man, it was just an incredible time for music.
Yeah. Do you still keep up with the music scene on Long Island and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Try to no.
No, dude, I hit the ground running. When I left, I never went back, with the exception of my sister living there.
Right.
No, I don't know that there is a scene. I mean, I have great memories of Long Island. I toured at a place called Focus 2 Guitars in the early 80s. When in the post King Edward Van Halen scene, every kid on the planet wanted a Charvel guitar with a Floyd Rose, wanted to learn how to play Eruption. I mean, everybody wanted to be a guitar player.
Yeah.
And that was wild. I think I had like 70 or 80 students a week back then.
There's a great band out in Long Island right now called AMH, Adam and the Metal Hawks.
Okay.
And they just did a thing with Dee Snider, and we had them on the show too. They went like viral during the pandemic just because they were doing like internet shit and trying to keep. But again, same thing, man. Same mentality. They've all got the same kind of attitude, that same kind of vibe, and it's Long Island, man. So it's a nice, rich history. And they were talking about all the history of all that shit too. It's crazy. Yeah.
It is. You have a sense of pride coming from Long Island because it's kind of like, the bastard child of New York City. Like nobody really goes, oh, I live on Long Island. But so listen, I remember when Brian Setzer put the Stray Cats together, and they came out, like, every genre, every different style of music that you could imagine was coming off that little piece of real estate, man. And there is a sense of pride because, listen, Steve I, Joe Satriani, you get into the five boroughs, you got, Will Calhoun and Corey Glover with Living Color, T.M. Stevens, all my brothers in arms for so many years, just like cutting their teeth and doing wonderful things,
Yeah.
And just, it's a great place. And again, I can't speak for it now. I don't live there. I don't know too much about anything. But at the time, you were forced to be great because every garage band on your block was a good band, or at least the time you thought.
Right.
Constant competition, constant self-deprecation. Man, I do suck. I got to work harder, man. The kid over in, Garden City shredding.
Right.
Yeah.
And you'd ride your bike and go hear bands play, like this guitar player, this drummer, whatever. Man, that's what it was. It was a constant, wonderful uphill struggle, which I'm so grateful for.
Yeah, and that's one of the cool things about a place like that not changing too much. I mean, you talk about like when I go back to Brooklyn, it's the same shit, man. It's like there's time stands still on the block my uncle lives on, man. I don't think anything is like it's the same fucking buildings, same colored walls. Everybody that still used to hang outside on the stoop is still fucking outside on the stoop. Yeah. It's wild, man. And it kind of like it's cool because it kind of breeds the same kind of talent if there's talent there, It's nuts.
It is. It's a wonderful thing, and listen, there's other communities around America who have a similar situation going on.
But who cares about that? No, I'm just kidding.
I know.
No, I know you. That's the New York, that's the but you know what? Fuck those. No, you're right. There is a bunch of places like that. There's pockets like all over the place that is just fucking awesome. But New York is like, I don't know. When you came on the first time, and immediately you were talking about Brooklyn, Long Island, is New York. I was like, this guy's like easily somebody in my family.
Probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's no way. We'll do that 23andMe thing on that TV show and find out we're like distant cousins or some shit. Do you have family from Italy?
That happened, dude. And again, part of my enjoyment of getting on the show, and I always say thank you to Max for putting me on with you guys. I enjoy good company. I enjoy good conversation. It's not pretentious. It's not bullshit. I mean, all you're doing is asking me my opinions and how I got to, sitting on a couch with you all tonight in the mountains of Pennsylvania. And if we can make people aware of like how rich a culture there was on Long Island in the music scene of the 70s, and how many incredible musicians never had the opportunity to break out of Long Island and do something. Those are the people that I don't feel bad for them, but at the same time, I wish they had their day in the sun too. Because there's so many incredible guitar players, drummers, bass players, singers, for whatever the reason, by their hand, by not their hand, who never really took the next step forward. Yeah. And, a lot of them are still there, and they're not bitter, they enjoyed the same things that we all did. Anybody who's my age who grew up in that area, some of us got really, really lucky, Yeah. The majority didn't, because that's how it works. The majority won't.
It's a good point though too. There are a lot of people that kind of get left behind, and then you have shows that are supposed to be, like The Voice and, I know what you mean, man. But it's that kind of shit. If you could make something like that to really benefit people, would you do? Do you think that's a good thing, a good way to utilize that?
I really don't. I watch American Idol because I find it really entertaining, and I like seeing these young kids sing, and I like some of the backstories.
Yeah.
That's fine. I like the way the show is produced. I mean, as far as visually watching something to burn out on Sunday or Monday night, whatever it is, man, it's awesome. Yeah. But no, that is not the way that you learn this craft. You're supposed to struggle. You're supposed to hit the bars. I mean, now, people got the internet and go videos viral.
Sure.
That's all well and fine. But we learned to do stuff on the fly in a bar.
Yeah.
Or in your mother's basement, or learning songs by ear, or trying to piece arrangements together, trying to learn guitar solos, trying to learn vocals. That's how you became a musician, And then like standing in front of like 30 drunks yelling "Freebird," and getting, like Rheingold cans thrown at you, learning how to kind of like duck and slip out of the way of a flying beer can while still playing a cool guitar solo.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe, again, I'm showing my age, but, you asked me a question, I'm only going to be honest. These other things, these talent shows, I mean, they had them when I was a kid, man, but no, I don't think they work.
Right. No, I agree. It's kind of fucked up because they figured out how to manipulate the system sometimes. Like there was this, we were talking about something the other day, man, where it's like everything that's the thing too, is like, I feel like it's organic versus inorganic, and people can tell when something is inorganic, but it's also like, what can you do? This is kind of what we live in now, which kind of sucks. There was a girl who got really popular. One of her songs became a hit. She was on Fallon, all this other shit. And basically it was because she was asking for suggestions on TikTok of what to sing, and somebody would throw some ideas out for the thing, and then she'd make a song about it. So one of them was like the alphabet, and she did it, and then it became this huge fucking thing. She went all over the place, and then somebody did a little digging and found out that the person that suggested it was part of her team, and she had already had a song written about it. So it was like all orchestrated, and it took it took any of it out of it. You know what I mean? Like it went from being like, oh my God, like this is a really cool organic thing, to holy shit, this was completely orchestrated.
Well, listen, and you're going to have, things like that. You're going to have people who, they're groomed for stardom and, whatever.
Right.
Then you're going to have people who are going to cut their teeth and never really get there. Listen, I don't begrudge anybody who has any kind of success. The only thing I could say firsthand is that when I first started working for Paul O'Neill, he looked at me straight up in the face and goes, I don't care about anything other than making great art.
Nice.
That's it. And that resonated with me then, and I'll carry that with me for the rest of my life, because that's why the Trans Siberian Orchestra became it, because there was you couldn't have scripted this. You couldn't have written out a blueprint to how to do this. Paul just wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. They look at what it is right now, and they see the grandeur and the spectacle that it's become, but they really have no comprehension of going back to 95, 96, and 97, that there was nothing except, a man with a great dream, and myself, Caffrey, Jeff played Johnny Lee Middleton. I know whom I've spaced, John Oliva, Paul's wife, just wanting something so bad for the sake of the art form. And then it became about finance later,
Right.
I think, and listen, when I was a kid, like in every generation that follows, people are enamored with wealth and finance and like, who's got what car, who's got what, who's wearing a Louboutins, who's driving a Bentley, who's wearing whatever,
Right.
It almost has anesthetized everybody to the work process to get to that point. They just think that they're entitled to have all this shit now because they see it on TV and now they see it on Instagram or whatever.
Sure.
That ain't the real world, brother.
Yeah, absolutely true.
At least not for somebody like me. Maybe there's some guy who's investing in Bitcom or whatever this crap is, which I don't comprehend. And maybe they're going to become billionaires overnight. God bless you. I'm not.
No, I hear you.
Yeah.
When we get done, I'm going to play guitar and do a couple songs with my daughter and probably like learn how to play a different chord on the guitar after 58 years of doing it. I'm okay with that world. We're straight.
Right.
Wow.
No, I hear you. Yeah, that's beautiful, man. And if there was somebody like if you're playing, let's say you're playing, whether you're with TSO or you're doing your own thing or whatever, if there was somebody that you idolize, like a musician, either dead or alive, who would you want to see in the audience watching you play?
That's a really good question. I would like Greg Allman. I would have enjoyed Greg Allman being in the audience.
Nice.
I've been complimented by a couple of my idols over the years that, I got a lovely letter from Gary Rossington a couple Christmases back saying, I wished him well. He was having some health issues, and he wrote me a handwritten letter. He said, I'm a huge fan of yours too. God bless what you do. You hear that. I've heard, Gladys Knight being in the audience when I was playing with Cooper. Jimmy Page was in the audience once. You hear about people going like, that makes me feel proud.
Yeah, absolutely.
Scares the living shit out of me. But I would have liked, when I did meet Greg, he was well aware of what I've done and maybe listened to the records, and he was very, very complimentary. But there was something about that man in particular. He was such an important part of my education musically. He was like my favorite rock star, and he was just awesome. It would have been nice to look down off the stage and just like, have him look up, maybe smile, maybe wink, maybe give me the finger. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that would have been okay. I would have enjoyed that very, very much.
Absolutely, man. That's great. And then, so I'm going to wrap up with the last 3 questions that we ask every guest. I want to thank you so much for coming on, first of all, because it's been a fucking blast.
Dude, it's my pleasure, man. Let's do this a bunch more times. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, next time we have to do it with some McAllen 18. Hopefully in person.
No, we do not. No.
That's so great.
That's a whole different interview that always goes sideways. Ain't gonna happen, brother.
It's a dystopia. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Said no interviewer ever.
Oh fuck, that got me. All right. So first question is, if you go back in time and talk to your younger self, what piece of advice would you give yourself that would help you today?
Don't change a fucking thing you're doing.
Nice. Beautiful.
Because, to be detailed, if I change something, one thing in life you change, it's a different outcome.
Yeah.
A different trajectory, a different landing point. Everything right now would be different. So,
yeah.
I would say, listen, toughen up. This ain't going to be easy, but just don't change nothing I did.
Nice. That'd be great. And then the second thing, what had to end in your life in order for you to wind up where you are today, good or bad?
I think insecurity. I think we touched upon this last time we talked.
Yeah, we did.
I remember that being a very good question. And I think insecurity is crippling because I believe, and I have, no formal education on this, but a lot of it comes from outsiders teaching you to be insecure. I don't know that insecurity, you're born with it. I just think that if enough people can get to you until you're not very good or beat you down, you start to somehow manifest and believe that that was your thought process.
Yeah.
So whether it's DNA or whether it's by society, that will hinder you and ruin your life.
Wow, that's a really good answer. That's a really good point.
Thank you. Yeah. It's a really good question, man. And
thank you.
I think that's what people really got. They got to be able to look in the mirror and believe in themselves, and also say, you know what, dude, you can't do this, and let's try something different. Be honest with yourself. Right. Or if you want it that bad, Shep Gordon, who was Alice's manager, said something in an interview a long time ago. And I forgot who was interviewing him, but they said, how do you accomplish all these great things? He goes, I don't know. I see it in my head, and then I make it happen.
Right. And then we have a new question for you that we've had since the last time. And it's like one of my favorite ones because it ties into the show. So in a dystopia, if this is a real dystopia, aliens, zombies, comet heading toward the earth, volcanoes, the whole shebang, what would be your epic death? How would you want to go out? And what weapon would you use? Would you think you would use?
Okay. So left by meaning if it was just me, it's got nothing to do with my daughter, my family.
Yeah. Nothing, just you.
Yeah. I'm opening the front door, pouring out a McAllen 25-year-old, putting my feet up, chain smoking a Marlboro, last great act of defiance. We're good.
Oh, fuck. That's so badass. That's awesome.
Well, you think about it, dude. I always get a kick, and to each his own. I'm not going to, I will never pass judgment or think differently of people who are getting ready for the zombie apocalypse.
Right.
I watched the pandemic shut the world down and people ran out and bought toilet paper.
Yeah.
Really?
Okay. Yeah.
So
exactly.
If this gets any more squirrely, I swear I'm going to crack a bottle 25-year-old, and I'm just going to put my feet up, and maybe I'll grab my favorite Winchester that I got because I love John Wayne, and maybe I'll put it on my lap because that's really going to deter a Panzer, a whole platoon of tanks. If it gets to that point, brother, I'm going out drunk. That's all. I promise you.
That's great. We are alike. That is beautiful. One of my friends was describing. He was like, dude, he's like, I feel like, if I know what's happening, I'm fine. I'm chill. I'm like, whatever, fucking meteor. I'd just be like, it's fine. I'm okay with it.
What are you going to do?
Exactly. Nothing. You got to enjoy it. I just want to know. I want to know what's going on. I don't want it to I don't want to be unaware.
Yeah.
But if I know,
listen, things like that, Hollywood depictions of goofy stuff like that. It's just like somebody was asking me the other day, after a nuclear attack, what would you do? I'm like, melt? I don't know. What am I going to do?
Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
Exactly. I want to live through this. So what? So I can learn how to no.
Yeah, no, that's fucking insane. When people are like, I
was going to say, you don't want to be responsible for repopulating the earth. That could be your role.
I don't like half the population now. I don't want to redo this. I've had so much fun with you tonight, man.
Yeah.
I love you guys.
Thank you so much for coming on, man.
We truly appreciate you coming out here with us.
Listen, you stay safe, and let's do this again soon, all right? And tell Max I said thank you again for putting this together for us.
Will do. Absolutely, man.
Absolutely. Thanks
so much, my brothers. Much love. Bye-bye.
Dystopia tonight.